I don't think defenses feel completely threatened by their passing game right now, especially switching quarterback, playing Mac Jones, and now going back to Brock Purdy. But your running back can't be your number one target guy. It just can't. You have got to be so good and efficient throwing the football that teams are so scared to bring that eighth guy up in the box. That's when you get those big runs. That's when you get that wide open space. It's all a numbers game, and right now they can't win the numbers game.
Mark Schlereth, host of the Stinkin' Truth podcast. Listen to the Stinkin' Truth podcast, now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Insider calls are brought to you by Nationwide. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. How is the podcast going, Mr. Mark Schlereth, who joins us on the River Islands guest line? What's going on, man?
It's going well. It's going exceptionally well, actually. So we're growing like a weed. Great podcast just got released today. I dare you to listen to it and not laugh hysterically. And there's still always going to be some good football on there as well. So it's going well, man. It's all good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. Well, I know you cover the NFL like a Snuggie. So, is there anything in that most recent pod about the 49ers, their quarterback situation, their injuries, their performance? What are you thinking right now after they suffered their first loss?
Well, I mean, they have had the injuries, obviously. Brock Purdy, who, I'm a big Brock Purdy fan, but he didn't look sharp. They didn't run the ball well. I mean, McCaffrey averaged, 2.5 yards, under 3 yards per carry. And meanwhile, all this tete-a-tete going on between Cohen and between your guys' defensive coordinator, Xerxes. I look at those situations going on right there, and you got to stop the run game. They couldn't stop the run. Jacksonville Jaguars, that's a different football team, and I had predicted this coming into the season that team was going to be a lot better than people thought. I think they were going to win that division. I still think they're going to win that division. They're a much better football team than people gave them credit for, but I tell you what, Robert Saleh, and I wish they would have thrown down. That would have been awesome if they'd have just, I know you're not supposed to, and I know, you can't preach violence, but a little violence would have been awesome if they actually traded blows. That would have been great.
Liam Cohen, Robert Saleh, 10-round with 8-ounce gloves. How do you handicap it, Stink?
Oh, like I said, Xerxes, the Persian god, would have just absolutely obliterated Cohen, I think. Although Cohen did, and Cohen – he's one of those. He's got a dad bod, but I think he's a little tougher than probably he would get credit for. But I think Robert Saleh would open a can of whoop ass personally.
No, I love that, and I kind of wish that the defensive line without Bosa could bring that sort of can of whoop ass energy. And when you look at the game, outside of the ETN big run, how was the Niners defense unable to really slow down ETN in that run game?
Yeah, I mean that's that's a $64,000 question, and I haven't gone through the coaches tape on that game. I haven't really looked at the coaches tape yet. I just watched the replay, the 30-minute cut up replay. So ultimately it comes down to being able to have gap sound assignment, and you just can't let it happen to you. Now I will say this: Jacksonville, offensive line-wise, and I did the first game of the season for them, they are a physical group. I think Ezra Cleveland's playing as good as he's played, maybe the best football he's played. I love their left tackle, even though, he's probably not the most gifted of athletes, but he's a big, firm guy. I mean, they'll lean on you. And that's one of those things. I almost look at them kind of like I look at the Rams or the 49ers. I talked about this on the podcast today, as a matter of fact. When I played, we used to always sit around, and our coaches would say, the 49ers, this is the late 80s, early 90s, would say, the 49ers, they don't practice in pads. They're soft, they're soft. And then you'd go out to Candlestick, and they would just whip your ass. And you'd be sitting on the bus licking your wounds, and you'd be whispering to each other as players because you didn't want, the coaches are sitting up front, and you didn't want one of the coaches over here. And you're like, whispering like, you lied to us, man. Those guys aren't soft. Those guys are a bunch of badasses. And and I think that's kind of the style with which Cohen wants his guys to play. I think that's kind of the way the Rams are built right now. So And unfortunately, with the injuries and everything else, the Niners are not quite there yet.
It's a perfect question for you, a former offensive lineman in a Shanahan system. Mark, why are the Niners not running the ball well?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is they're getting so much from a defensive standpoint. I don't think defenses feel completely threatened by their passing game right now, especially switching quarterbacks and, playing Mac Jones and now going back to Brock Purdy and the guys you have outside. And I'll equate this to kind of how I always felt about teams that didn't have a war daddy as a pass rusher. When you don't have one dude or two dudes that can flat rush the passer, then you're like, hey, man, we can get five guys out in the pattern at all times because we can go 5 1-on-1s. We can go 5-0 protection. We're not afraid to do that. And ultimately, we'll win. And I think when teams look at you and say, hey, man, there's nobody that truly threatens us outside the numbers. There's nobody out there that we're scared to death of. So if we sit there and say, man, we're going to load this box and we're going to live with the consequences, and you can't beat them consistently. I mean, come on, McCaffrey had 11 targets? Like, he led the team with targets. I think he had 5 or 6 receptions. Like, your running back, and I get that he's great, and I get that you can split him out and do a lot of things, but your running back can't be your number one target guy. It just can't. And so I think some of it is, hey, man, we are not going to allow you to run the football. We're just not going to allow you. And at this particular point in time, I don't think they're good enough to overcome that, and especially not in the passing game. You have got to be so good and efficient throwing the football that teams are so scared to bring that eighth guy up in the box that's when you get those big runs. That's when you get that wide open space. It's all a numbers game, and right now they can't win the numbers game.
Not only that, Stink, but it doesn't seem like they can really pass protect that well. Hines Allen had his way with Trent Williams, and if you can't run it and you can't protect, how do you go about finding that vertical passing game?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's really hard. I don't think there's not a team in the league that can drop back 40 whatever times and have success. You just can't. It's just impossible. The athletes on the other side are much better. And, you speak of war daddy pass rushers. Man, they got 2 with Hines Allen and the other cat they've got who's a damn good player as well. I can't remember his name right off the bat. I did do their game week 1, but I've taken a lot of shots to the head, so whatever. But they've got 2 guys they can really rush. Is it Walker on the other side? I don't know, but they've got 2 guys that can flat out rush the passer. So they're a really good defensive front, and you've got to be able to take pressure off of those guys by having some success. And if you got to sit back and and ask your quarterback to do it, it's just a bad recipe. They got to get. Ayuk's got to come back eventually. You got to get George Kittle back in the fold. You've got to have some other guys that threaten a defense that, you just can't pin your ears back and go, we're not scared of you guys right now, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to dictate to you as opposed to the opposite being true.
Speaking of having a great pass rusher, yeah, Nick Bosa's not coming back. And based on what I saw against Jacksonville, Stink, I think the Niners need to make a move as soon as the league will sort of start taking trade calls. What are your thoughts on that? Is Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati a match?
Trey Hendrickson's a great player. Yeah, so if you could go out and get a Trey Hendrickson, absolutely. He's in his 30s, but that guy can still rush the passer. So that would be great. Cincinnati ain't going anywhere, and they don't like paying guys anyhow, right? I mean, they're a garbage organization. So that would be one that I would reach out and ask if did I say that garbage? Don't tell anybody in Cincinnati.
No, this is just between us right now, Stink. Just between the 3 of us, yeah.
Keep that on the down low between us guys. Trust tree, dude talk here, right?
Perfect.
One dude to another dude.
That's right.
So yeah, they're garbage. So yeah, that would be a guy I would reach out to and see if see if they want to unload him because they don't want to pay him.
That's a fact. And after last night, I think that most of America would agree that they are trash based on what they put out there, and they had their own wide receiver talking about how it didn't seem like they tried. But short of that addition, what can Robert Saleh do? Not a defense and a coordinator that loves to blitz a lot, and looked like they played a lot of bend but don't break. How might that work against Matt Stafford and a guy with an offense that can kind of carve you up?
Yeah, it's not a good recipe. I think the other thing that that the Rams have done here in recent years, there was a time where you guys just absolutely took the Rams and just took them behind the woodshed. My dad used to say that to me all the time when I was when I was a youngster and I started feeling a little salty. He'd be like, "Hey, you want to go behind the barn? Like, you want to go behind the barn?" And let me just tell you, my dad, poolside, my college buddies called him, my dad would whoop your ass. He was that, like, let's go. If you want to go by, and now, of course, I never challenged him because
right.
until I got a bit older, right? But right up until even when I was in high school, I mean, that guy was frightening. And so anyhow, like, it's one of those situations where that's who the Rams have become. There was a time when the 49ers would just line up against the Rams and absolutely thunder punch them on top of the head, and they'd walk away, just bludgeoning the Rams. Well, guess what? The Rams adjusted. The Rams looked at that and said, "Hey, man, if we're ever going to be able to compete with the Niners, we've got to flip the script, and we've got to become the bully." And they've done that in the last couple of years, man. Their offensive line, they've addressed that. They're good up front. And I always say this about them, Sean McVay always talks about illusion of complexity and, hey, how we are designed or disguised as a spread team, but we really run the ball and we're good at that. And then defensively, they've addressed their defensive line and their defensive front seven. And I'm telling you what, they're a really damn physical team, which they don't get credit for because, Matthew Stafford throws it around. They got a bunch of good receivers and all that kind of stuff, but they're really based on, and Sean will tell you this, we're based on physically just bludgeoning you.